Hi everybody, thank you for joining me this lunchtime. I'm Rachel Roby, the Strategic Apprenticeship Lead at Cogent, and I'm just going to spend the next 20 minutes to half an hour just talking you through the new Apprenticeship Levy matching service. Just before I start, could somebody just put in the chat box if you can hear me okay, and if the slides are on full screen, please. I would appreciate, so I'm not just rabbiting onto nobody. Perfect. Thank you, everybody. Right, I'll make a start. So thank you again for joining me. I am going to record the session just so that it can be available after today. Like I said in the chat box, if anybody has got any questions, please put them in the chat box and I'll go through them at the end. It is just me running the session today, so there won't be any questions in the middle, but if anybody has got any, then I can answer them at the end. So just a brief introduction on Cogent. So who are we? So Cogent are a charity that supports employers in the science industry. We come together to collaboratively address skills issues. We have two membership groups and a number of local. So our science industry partnership that are known as SIP and our nuclear skills strategy group. We also can deliver a range of skill solutions, including consultancy, training, endpoint assessments. Any profits from the skill solutions are invested back into the industry through the charity work that we do. And there's just a couple of images there. And if anybody does want any more information on SIP and the services that we can provide, please feel free to email me at the end of the session. Okay, so what is Levy transfer? So Levy transfer has been available since 2019. So obviously the Levy came in 2017, and in 2019 they started the Levy transfer and Levy the service, and it was a rule where Levy players could transfer up to 25% of their annual funds. This originally came in at 10%, but then it was increased to 25%. Transfers were made to support other companies with their apprenticeships, paying for the training and assessment costs. And traditionally, Levy payers used it to support their supply chains, their charitable links, or their regional partners to make the transfers. And we've seen some really good success stories that the Levy transfer opportunities have given those companies that do have surplus funds being able to support smaller SMEs, either within their supply chain or any of their charity foundations, with supporting them with apprenticeships and paying for those costs. But there was feedback, and there's been ongoing feedback in discussions around how the Levy is utilised internally, but also those transfer services that can be made available. And there was some feedback around that the employers wanted the process to be simplified, including the admin process, because it was taking quite a lot of time to deal with the administrative burdens of all the paperwork and the processes to follow. And they also wanted to have a clearer view of the financial status and what they were committing to, making sure that they weren't over committing or knowing if they were under committing and then could give more funds away. So government have listened to the employers, and they are starting to introduce a series of measures. So from September 2021, so obviously this month, a new electronic levy matching service will be launched. This has been launched and there is press around it, which is good. It's met the timescale that they wanted to. There was some conversations in the summer and there's been some trials and some short kind of trial versions used, but they're now happy and it is now open for pledges. So what happens is the new matching service is an online service through .gov.uk and will be managed through the Digital Apprenticeship Service, which is better known as the DAS. So if you currently have apprentices, you will have a digital apprenticeship account. If you don't currently have apprentices and you haven't ever been registered, to utilise this service, you will need to set yourself up a digital account. And again, if anybody wants any guidance on this, please feel free to shout after the session and I can forward you the links. And there are some really good videos to help you set up an account. So anybody that does have an account, they will be able to view, and you may have seen a new box appear in your latest update of the DAS, where you'll be able to see the Levy transfer service that should have appeared. If it hasn't appeared straight away, again, it's one of the things of the soft launch and it will come. But there'll be a box where you'll be able to then see what activity is taken on for the levy transfer. And through the improvements in the system, they have simplified the process. They've put it online, and there are developments of a tool that will help with the financial commitments. I've seen a mock-up of how this system would work, and I do feel like it would be beneficial for employers. And one of the things that lots of employers have asked for is an export function, so that you can download what your commitments are and be able to check them, not just on an online system. So there'll be a visible tool that will show your funds with projections and when funds will start to fall off, because it's a 2-year limit. But there will also be an export function, so that if you are using the transfer service, for you to be able to keep an update as to what where your commitments are, the timescales and the financial obligations that you've made, you'll be able to export that. So if your finance team, or if you want to just keep paper copies of things, you'll be able to download those. At the moment, they're coming in the winter, no exact date yet, but obviously through SIP newsletters and any comms, if I do hear that things are coming out, then I can keep you informed. So what's exactly changing, and the things that I just wanted to raise to you all before I go into how the process will work. So 2 sides of it. One, if you are a levy payer, so if you're a levy payer, you will be now called a pledger, and you will be committing to transferring or making funds available to transfer to other companies. And they don't just have to be in your supply chain or charitable anymore. They can be opened up to anybody. And you will be committing to the full length of the apprenticeship programme, which can be up to 5 years, depending on the level. So it's something to bear in mind. Commitment to the full amount of training and assessment costs, and this will be up to the maximum funding band. If you are a levy payer and you are committing to this, your transfer funds will leave your account on a monthly basis, and they will take priority over your own internal apprenticeships. So if you have a number of your own apprentices on your books that you currently pay monthly fees for, and you see those fees drop off, your transfer funds will trump them, and they will be the priority. So just in context, if something happens and you do fall out, you run out of levy funds, you would enter co-investment. So if you had enough to cover your transfer learners, but you didn't have enough to cover your own learners, you would go into co-investment on your own apprentices. And that's just something to consider around how much is in your pot, how much your time you're willing to allocate to that spend. Having conversations with your financial team to make sure if you are going to make long-term commitments, then you're going to have the funds to do that. Also considering how your own internal program may be working, what may be numbers now, will they be the similar numbers in the future? Could they increase, which would then mean your own levy pot would be utilised more, and just having a think about how much you can actually commit to. And just a little note that if the apprenticeship does stop, your transfer payments will also stop. So if something happens on the other side and the apprentice doesn't continue, your financial commitments will stop as soon as the provider and the employer notify the DAS that the apprentice has finished, and therefore no more money will be claimed for you. So how will the process work? So here's just a little diagram just to show you what will happen and what is available to you. So this is all using an online system. So the levy payer will be able to create a pledge and be able to specify in the following criteria. So there are drop-down options on the application process where you can specify how much money you're willing to pledge, the geographical locations of the country that you would like those pledges to go to. You can pick nationwide, or you can select certain regions. So if part of your strategy is around local, then again, you're more than welcome to just select your own region or go national. Sectors, so these are aligned to the 15 route pathways that apprenticeships are now broken into. They include health and science, business services, creative, construction, engineering, manufacturing, and there's many more. And you can select if you have a preferred sector that you would like your pledges to go to. So for example, if yourself is an engineer, is classed as engineering, and you would like the funds to go to other engineering companies, maybe smaller SMEs, then obviously you could select that, or alternatively you could leave it open to any company to pledge. Types of job roles, so there are different levels, so whether it's an entry level or whether it's a higher level. So do you want to consider only funding level 2 and level 3 learners? Do you want to potentially train future managers and be a part of higher level apprenticeship journeys? Again, you have some options. You can just pick all, or you can specify. And then same again for the apprenticeship level. Would you like the funding to go towards level 2 and 3? Would you like it to go towards that middle management of 4 and 5? Or would you like to invest in degree apprenticeships or equivalent at level 6 and 7? And again, you can click all, or you can specify. So there's got some options available to you, and you can do that. You can click all the buttons, and it's really easy. It's a very simple, clean process, just a number of clicks, and then you can move on. So once you have committed to that, you will then save that. Once it's gone through a quick check, it will then go as to a live pledge, and your details will sit. One of the things that I will say is that you can advertise the company name, so you can advertise yourself, or you can keep your company details offline, and it would just class as, it just says organisation rather than the company name. And that's entirely up to you whether or not you want to advertise yourselves a little bit about you, or whether you'd like to leave that blank, and that's entirely up to you internally to decide. So for receiving employers, so typically these are non-levy payers who want to have some apprentices and want some apprenticeship funding, or potentially levy payers that have utilised all of their levy funds and want some additional. They will then be able to go on and view all the opportunities through .gov.uk or through the DAS, and they will then be able to apply for transfer opportunities. So there's two ways of doing it. You can either log in through the DAS and click to see what opportunities there are, or you can just generally search on .gov.uk linked to apprenticeships. I haven't got access to a DAS, and I was very easily, in a couple of clicks, able to get on yesterday to just check that the system was up and running. So I could view it without having a DAS. So I'm hoping that will lead to more SMEs who maybe haven't utilised apprenticeships before being able to access the opportunities and see whether it's something of interest. If they see the opportunities and they want to apply, or if you see opportunities and you want to apply if you are an SME, you will need to register through the DAS and set up an online account, because the only way to apply for funding will be through the digital apprenticeship service. So you would then check the pledges that are available. So for example, if there has been a levy payer who has pledged to nationwide health and science level 2 and level 3, and you are an SME in health and science who wants to introduce some level 3 lab technicians into your business, you would then be able to go on and you will be able to respond to that pledge and apply. And there are a number of boxes that you will fill in. You can fill in some information about yourself and the company that you work for. You can add some information around the reason why you want funding, what you want it to do, what you're going to spend the funding on, and what impact you hope it's going to have, and part of your kind of evidence to support why you are applying and what funding you want. So there's about 3 or 4 boxes to fill in, and obviously you can fill in a couple of lines, or you can detail some more in-depth notes. And then when you're happy with the text boxes that you filled in, you would then submit that. Because you've submitted it linked to a pledge, that pledge or that application will automatically go back to the sending employer. And what will happen is when you then log into the DAS next as the sending employer, you will receive a notification which is called a task alert, and that will notify you that a pledge has been applied for and is available for you to view. So you'll double click. When I saw it on a demo that they'd run, it was on the right hand side, there was a little alert box to say there was a task, and then when you click into the task you can then see that a pledge has been applied for. And when you click on that, you will click on the pledge, And bearing in mind, you might have a number of pledges, you might have decided to split the money or put different geographical restrictions or requirements or level requirements. So you may have a number of pledges that may be being applied for at the same time. So just be careful when you're looking at what pledge people are responding to. But you'll then be able to see the application that somebody has put through. You'll be able to read the text, to understand the company, that they're, the evidence that they've submitted, and then you will be able to decide whether or not you want to approve or deny them the opportunity. So whether you're accepting their application or whether or not you're denying it. And it's a simple box, it's a click. You apply, you approve it, you deny it, or potentially if there's been a change of circumstances internally, you are able to withdraw the pledge. So if the, say for example, the application process doesn't go the way that you're expecting, or you potentially want to change the pledge when you've started to receive some pledge applications, they're not quite meeting the criteria that you wanted them to, or they're not quite ticking all the boxes, you have got the authority to withdraw the pledge and then maybe redo it or relook at it at another time. So you will then make your decision. You will for this circumstance, we'll say that you've approved it and you've clicked the button to approve. What happens then is the receiving employer will then get a notification and a task alert when they next log into the DAS, and they will be able to see the outcome of the transfer application. If it's approved, then they will be able to then accept or reject it. So bear in mind that you've pledged it, they've applied for it, you've accepted that. They still do have an accept or reject function available to them. And I think that's been put together so that if people are applying for multiple pledges at once, which obviously they're quite free to do if they want to, if they've already had a response and they've already set the ball in motion, they may not need your pledge as well, so they may reject it. But if they do go on to accept it, then that means that they have the commitment from yourselves. You would then commit to that through an online portal, accept it, and then that would give them the, I suppose, authorization or the next steps to be able to then start to engage with training providers or start to engage with apprentices themselves, knowing that the funding is going to be there. What you probably find is it may be companies that don't then necessarily start their apprentices straight away. They may not have it in place because they may want to have the transfer commitment before they then start to reach out. So you may not hear anything for a little while, but in the background, that pledge will be saved until the start is processed. And obviously that start will be processed through the employer and through the training provider. And once that commitment and once that start has been reviewed and it's gone live, you will then receive notification that the start has gone live and when your first payment and commitment payment will obviously leave your account. Okay, so that's how the process will work electronically, and I hope I've explained that in the best way possible. But obviously, if anybody's got any questions on this, please feel free to ask. So like I said, just to recap, it is an online system. It has been designed to be a simple click box system, removing the need for the levy payer, the pledges to have to apply really formally. But obviously, if you are a receiving employer who wants the funds, you will need to justify with those open text boxes as to what you're going to use the funds for, how you're going to utilise it and what impact you want it to have. And then obviously as the pledger, you'll be able to review those and then click buttons, and it's simple as accept or deny, and then accept or reject at the other side to put that commitment in place. So just to explain the timeline that's happening, so there has been a bit of a phased approach. So some people may have been asked to take part in the pilot, and that was to test that the system was working. And then in early September, there was a launch, I think it was this time last week or maybe at the beginning of last week, where they said that it had gone live so that pledges have started to be added. And I checked on Monday afternoon and already 24 levy payers had pledged 1.9 million pounds of excess levy to the system. So I think that's really good for it only being up and running for 10 days. We know there is a lot a lot of surplus levy funds in the country that could be utilised, but I think 1.9 million is a good start. And then from mid-September, so if not available now, it will be available in the next few days, because they wanted to do it before October, is that your receiving employers will start to be invited to apply for the pledges. So the pledges are up, you can view them, and if you are looking to apply, it would be worthwhile starting to have a look at the system, have a look at where the pledges are, and then maybe start to work out who you would like to apply for. And then obviously when you can apply, you can be ready with the text that you want to add into those boxes, and then yeah, the system will be up and running. One thing that I'd just like to add is I was talking before about the commitments and the commitments that you will be asked as the levy payer pledges. Obviously, all of the financial obligations for the training and the assessment will be automatically taken out of your levy funds. So it's important that you've got an understanding of your levy fund, how much there is in the pot, and how much surplus there is available. And obviously from an SME point of view, and for those learners that are going to be using your levy funds, the employer will be responsible for obviously managing the progress of the learner, the relationship with the training provider, and making sure that the learner is progressing. That responsibility will not fall on you as the pledges. You are, donating your surplus funds to support other people. You will obviously have updates through the monthly income and outcomes going statements on the levy service, and they will be on your list as levy transfer apprentices within your system, where you have access to all of your apprentices. Okay, so there are the slides that I wanted to deliver. I hope it's given you a bit of an insight for anybody that didn't even know what levy transfer was, or didn't really know about the changes that were coming in. But we've got a few minutes until 1 o'clock, so I'm just going to keep the chat box open. Just if anybody does have any questions, feel free to add anything in. Thank you, Ian, for the thank you. I hope you have found it useful. What I'll do at the end of the session today will be, I have recorded it, so I will save it and put it online so that people can have a look at it. If anybody wants to see the slides that I've put together, then please get in touch and I can forward them across to you. And if there's any other questions, if anybody wants any more advice, wants any more information, obviously this is brand new. Bear in mind that these things often have teething problems, so please bear with as the system is going live. I will keep my ear to the ground for any more updates or any further developments, and we'll keep people informed. But if anybody has got any specific questions or specific queries, either it's not working or you want some more advice and guidance on using this system, either as a levy payer who wants to pledge, or if you are an SME who wants to utilise funding, then please obviously just give me a shout and I can try and answer any questions. Okay, I'm just going to check the chat box just one more time. Doesn't seem to be any questions in the box. I'm hoping that means that I'm hoping you're still with me. But if there's nothing else, I will say goodbye. I will end the session. Yes, I will respond to the person that's just requested for the slides, not a problem. And yes, I shall hopefully see you all soon. Thanks very much. Take care, everybody. Thank you for joining.